At this point, I would like to introduce two of the faculty for the seminar who are going to introduce our featured speakers for the morning. First person who will make an introduction is John Neighbors.
Thanks, Dick. We have two really significant speakers for you in this first segment this morning. We're very fortunate to have them, and you'll hear in a minute. They're central to the issue and the debate that's going on about the Employee Free Choice Act. I have described it as probably the most significant piece of legislation that has occurred in my professional lifetime, which I hope you'll be shocked by this reality, but has spanned nearly 35 years. And when you're shocked, I'm on. Some might say Title VII was more important, but I think if you measure by impact where the Employee Free Choice Act has become law, it arguably is more significant. I want to put it in context in two ways. One, I have a letter from Senator Brown that was written to one of our clients in which he says, he's a senator from Ohio, more than half of the U.S. workers, nearly 60 million, say they want to join a union. Yet the status quo of forming unions is filled with obstacles. Opponents of the bill claim secret ballot elections for union formation should continue. This bill would allow secret ballots to continue while also giving employees the option of majority sign-up. That's how Senator Brown frames the issue. I'll tell you a quick story that I think will frame the issue from my perspective. In the late 1980s, we were working with a company located in Staten, Oregon. 88 employees. The Stewart brothers began the organizing effort on a Friday night. By Monday morning, they had a majority of the employees signed up in union cards. I know that because we subsequently had an unfair labor practice trial with the effort to seek a bargaining order. By Monday morning, a majority of the employees had signed union cards. And the union, the steelworkers, filed a petition with the National Labor Relations Board which turned the switch on the election procedure. Were that to occur after EFCA becomes law, that employer would have been unionized on that Monday morning, a mere 2 days after the organizing campaign started. Many of you would applaud that result, and many of you would say that's the most un-American result that they could imagine under American laws. That's the debate that is going on. As I said, we have two incredibly prominent speakers on this topic. I have the pleasure of introducing Stewart Acuff, who is an assistant to the president of the AFL-CIO, John Sweeney, who has responsibility for the Employee Free Choice Act for the AFL-CIO. Stewart was a community organizer from 1977 to 1982, something I respect greatly, and he has a close friend in the White House, I'm sure, in that regard. He joined the Service Employees International Union in 1982 and proceeded to organize 12 healthcare facilities of Beverly, who I know was represented by Don Dotson, former chair of the National Labor Relations Board, and in Indianapolis to organize labor. He then moved from there to Georgia, eventually becoming president of the Atlanta Labor Council. While in Georgia, he organized as the executive director of the public employees in the state of Georgia. And then he moved on, as I said, to be president of the Labor Council in Atlanta. While in that position, he unionized the Atlanta Olympic Games. This man does not need EFCA. What organized labor needs is more Stewart Acuffs. And we don't need to pass a law. EFCA means more unionization. It means more collective bargaining. It means more arbitrations. It means more unfair labor practices. It is my pleasure for you to welcome today Stewart Acuff, a friend of the working man and the Management Labor Relations Bar. Stewart is talking about
Thank you, John. Now I want to introduce Rick Dennerline, who will introduce our other featured speaker for this morning.
is not the picture. He is Vice President in the U.S. Chamber of Commerce for Labor, Immigration, and Employee Benefits, and is, I think, spearheading the Chamber response to the EFCA effort. And he has a wide and varied experience in the labor arena. Before joining the Chamber in 1997, he was Republican Labor Counsel and coordinator for the House Committee on Education and Workforce. He's also served as an attorney with the U.S. Department of Labor, where he was special assistant to the Solicitor of Labor. Randy's a graduate of the University of Maryland Law School. He's also been attached to various executive agencies and has varied work experience in the labor field. He's quite well-versed in this area, and he's also been on the road a little bit with Stewart, debating the issue before you today. What we're going to do in way of format is to have both speakers give 10-minute introductory talks, with Stewart going first as the advocate for the act, Randy responding, and then we'll just simply have a back and forth. And we'll just make sure neither one of them tries to pull a filibuster. So with that, I introduce Stewart.
Thank you all. I want to begin by saying good morning and by thanking the NLRB Region 25 and the IU School of Law for hosting this discussion this morning. And I want to welcome and thank my trade union activists and leader colleagues who turned out to be here today, and thank them for all the great work that they're doing on the ground around the Employee Free Choice Act all over Indiana. We are in the deepest and most serious economic crisis since the Great Depression. And economists across the spectrum, left to right and right to left, all agree that one of the most serious causes of that crisis is the lack of consumer demand, the lack of buying power in the middle and at the bottom of the economy. And why is that? For the last 30 years, since 1973, the productivity of the average American worker has gone up by 75%. That's due to a lot of things, innovation, technology, but also workers working hard. And for 20 of those years, our wages remained flat and stagnant, and the last 10 years, our wages have begun to decline. The average buying power of the average American worker today is less than it was in 1973. The Federal Reserve issued a report a month ago which says median family wealth is less than it was in 2001. 20% more people in America living in poverty since George Bush took office. Now close to 50 million Americans without health care. More than we had in 1965 when we passed Medicare and Medicaid to solve our health care crisis. Another 40 million with inadequate or unreliable health care. And CEO pay has gone from 40 times the average worker in 1980 to 400 times the average worker since today. And so American workers are working hard. More hours are spent on the job, and we're falling further and further behind. So we borrowed to keep up. We took out a line of credit on our homes, our second mortgage, insidious credit card debt, medical debt as more and more of us lost health care and health insurance, education debt as higher education became harder to pay for working families. And finally, that debt bubble burst, and here we are, bailing out the most powerful banks and financial institutions in the history